What up, everybody? The beginning of Power Book 2 Ghost Season 4, Brayden laid eyes on Elle while she was on stage singing Weak by SWV. And it just happened that she was hitting the line, "Your love is so sweet, it knocks me right off of my feet." And we can say this was symbolic for the relationship between Brayden and Elle. Brayden wasted no time going to talk to Elle, who was also asking Brayden for product. The next episode, Brayden was watching No Lies rehearse, and he went to the back with Elle while she was bumping some coke, and she offered it to Brayden, and he gave it the good old college try. And from this point, moving forward to the rest of this season, however much time has passed between episode 3 and episode 5, Brayden and Elle have unofficially been a couple, and also using coke to the point it was starting to bother Brayden's nose in episode 5 because he was doing so much. A clear sign he may need to lay off of it. Ever since Brayden was first introduced in Power, he was compared to Tommy Egan. And since Brayden has now caught a couple bodies and is also using coke, the comparisons are even getting louder. Especially with Zion asking Brayden if he was as crazy as Tommy and also calling him Tiny Tommy. But one thing about Tommy concerning his cocaine use is that he never stayed on it for long periods of time. He would normally only use it either when partying with females or when going through a serious depression. Tommy was always able to control himself and never really crashed all the way out. This could be because Tommy knew the consequences of drug use because his mother was a full-blown cokehead his whole life from the time he was young. In addition to that, he also grew up selling rocks on the corners of Southside Jamaica, Queens, and saw what crack was doing to all the base heads. So Tommy always knew that using coke wasn't the move, and was often even ashamed of his coke use when he did do it. So because Brayden didn't grow up with the same experiences as Tommy, he might not have the same sense of control that would stop him from taking it too far. He could end up being a full-blown cokehead like Kate. Because Brayden actually experienced the opposite childhood experience with drugs as Tommy. Yes, Brayden also grew up around drugs like Tommy because his whole family uses. But at the same time, he never saw the dark side of it because his family always had money. Or we could even see Brayden crash all the way out and progress to even harder drugs like we saw Jannard from Force. In Season 1, he was messing around with a little bit of powder, but in Season 2, he turned into a full-blown junkie. I once knew a kid a lot like Brayden Weston, around the same age and everything. When things got too hot for me in my city and I moved down south, I had to go on savage mode for real. Because even though I'd spent years balling out in the game, at this point I was back to square one, just hustling to survive. In a new city with no network, no clientele, and trying to rebuild from nothing. Unlike in my hometown, where I never had trouble moving product from the time I got in the game because of my connections going into other counties outside of the city. But when I first got down south, my cousin had this rich kid a lot like Brayden Weston he was buying bags of weed from. And this kid was selling his weed at airport prices, NBA concession stand prices, whatever you want to call it. So my first thought was just to rob the kid, but unless I'm drunk, where I would just do whatever comes to my mind, I normally consider everything I do and calculate all my moves. And yeah, I could have easily robbed the kid, but what I really needed was a network and clientele, something that this kid had. So one day I got a hold of the kid to buy some of his weed. And after I bought some of his weed, I then gave him a couple 20 bags of coke and let him know that this is what I do or something like that, but to hit me up if him or anybody he knew ever needed any. And the kid took the bait, and exactly as planned, him and his girl was calling me about an hour later asking for more. And it was back on from that point until the day I went to prison. Probably around 6 months later, the kid was completely out of the game because he was only worried about doing coke now. And I even smashed his girl a few times as well, who also broke up with him once he fell off. So right now, Brayden is at a fork in the road after Tariq just caught Brayden doing coke with Elle and snapped on him, telling Brayden that he needs to learn how to take it on the chin like he does. But Brayden told Tariq he's not him and he can't do that, and that coke is his outlet. But even that is still a very slippery slope, using coke as an outlet to deal with your problems. Or he might continue using coke like it's normal and turn into a full-blown addict. And it's not going to be easy for Brayden to get clean either, as long as he's in a relationship with Elle. Because like Tariq said, she's an addict. And she almost even has an excuse that makes you feel sorry for her and give her a pass for being an addict. I had a friend who eventually died from sickle cell. I would go to the hospital and pray for him and everything. Sometimes he would even have problems with doctors not giving him medication, with the doctors not even fully understanding of what people with sickle cell go through, and thinking he was just an addict who was there to get pills. But if Brayden doesn't get cleaned up and continues to crash out on the coke, then Tariq may have to make the hard choice of cutting Brayden out of the business. And one of the season 4 synopsis reads that because of Brayden's new reckless lifestyle, Tariq wonders if there's really room for two at the top. But the thing is, cutting Brayden out of the business might be easier said than done, especially because they're moving the product through Elle's group's merch. And with Elle in Brayden's ear, she'll be telling Brayden he can't let Tariq cut him out the business. How else would they get their cut for their personal use to feed their ever-growing addiction? Because of that, Brayden might just force Tariq's hand to take him out. When Tariq was having his hallucination, another version of himself appeared and said that I'm everything you could be once you stop doubting yourself and acting like people's rules apply to your life, and be everything your father couldn't be. This could also mean doing what Ghost could never do, killing his version of Tommy, Brayden Weston. Because in my opinion, the biggest cause of Ghost's downfall was Tommy. Maybe like the other version of Tariq said, the real reason Ghost kept Tommy around the whole time is because deep down, he doubted himself. When Ghost had the opportunity to go to choke with Angela, he turned it down. His reason being that he couldn't leave Tommy behind. When Ghost reunited with Angela years later, one day on a date, I think it was at a coffee shop or ice cream parlor, Tommy showed up, running his mouth talking about canceling Christmas. This is something Angela later recalled to identify Tommy as Ghost. But Angela later found out that James was actually Ghost by Tommy again running his mouth to Holly. Tommy was also the main one who forced Ghost to kill Rolla. And when Ghost was on his way down south to Miami to figure things out, hunting pink sneakers, Tommy again ran his mouth, this time to Kanan, who sent Dre down to South Beach to get to pink sneakers before Ghost could. I personally think Ghost would have got the info from pink sneakers, but let her live. And this is only how Tommy messed things up for Ghost in the first 2 seasons of Power. There's no telling what happened before, either, though we'll soon find out in Origins. And we know everything that happened with Ghost and Tommy after, including Tommy killing Angela. That's why I find it funny when people say that Tariq must pay for his crimes at the end of book 2, because he's done too much. There's too much blood on his hands. Because one of the characters who actually made it out of Power alive was Tommy Egan. And let me ask the question, who has more blood on their hands than Tommy Egan? Almost like Tommy made it out by being exactly who the other version of Tariq told him to be. Not acting like everybody else's rules apply to his life, and taking out whoever stood before him, whether he liked it or not. Even killing his own father, just like how Tariq shot Ghost. So depending on how far Brayden spirals out of control and what his new reckless lifestyle is all about, I do think there's a good chance that Tariq could end up killing Brayden at the end of the series and telling Brayden, like he told Ghost, "You forced my hand." Tariq might even shoot Brayden with a tear in his eye, similar to Nino Brown smoking G Money in New Jack City, or Unique smoking Trez in Raising Kanan. And there you have it. Leave your thoughts, theories, and predictions in the comments.